What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Sweat. March to the tournament. I'm Emerson Lotzia. It was a long, taxing wait, but March Madness has finally re-entered our lives. It's been almost 2 years. It's been 84 years since the last NCAA tournament game. In the next hour, we will break down which teams are coming out of which region, each region, who's on upset alert, which spreads, totals, and props the public is putting its money on. So let's get after it here. East Region Breakdown. DraftKings contributors Julian Edlow and Kenny Ducey in the house on the Zoom. Gentlemen, Michigan and Alabama, your top two seeds here. Michigan, the number one seed, will play the winner of the play-in game. So Alabama plays Iona and is a 16.5-point favorite, the biggest favorite in this region for a first-round game. So you chasing the Alabama line, or is there another spread in this region that catches your eye, Jules?
Yeah, I mean, for the top two seeds here, both are kind of banged up. Like, Livers is Michigan's go-to guy. They have a lot of good scorers, but Livers is the guy. He might have a broken foot. And Bama has two key guys in that rotation that are injured, who one of them we may not see. So really, for me, Alabama being the biggest favorite of all the two seeds and the biggest favorite in the region is pretty surprising to me. Not especially when you consider, we haven't seen Iona for that many games. They've been shut down a couple times for COVID, but they looked good in their conference tournament. And their head coach is Rick Pitino. Like, we have Rick Pitino as a 16.5-point dog in the first round. I don't know if this is necessarily going to make the cut in terms of things that I bet this weekend, but if you told me I had to bet this game right now, I am taking the points with Iona for sure.
Okay, Kenny, I'm telling you, you have to bet this game right now. So what are you going to do?
Oh, man. Well, I think I would probably take the points with Iona as well, as Julian said. Favorites, it's always a mixed bag with them in the first round, at least this heavy favorites, right? But the favorite that I'm really got my eye on is UConn -3 against Maryland. I think that UConn is primed for a big run here. I think that Maryland needs to hit threes to have success, and UConn's defense has been absolutely incredible this year, 25th in adjusted defense. And when you look at Maryland, really the last few years, but especially this year, like they have offensive lapses, and that's what we've seen a lot of lately. They have lost 3 of their last 4 games. They've averaged 62 points in those games. So I think that this offense is a little bit suspect heading into the tournament. You got a good defense on the other side with UConn, a lot of momentum. James Bouknight back. I'm sure we'll talk about them plenty in this region breakdown. But I think opening a 3-point short favorite, I love UConn here against Maryland. I think they cover that spread pretty easily, actually.
Kenny, go ahead and give me the most likely upset in the first round in your eyes.
Yeah, I'm going to just be a square here, and I have to take Georgetown. They're getting 4.5 points against Colorado. I think that they cover that, and I think they win outright. But look, Colorado, you could say everything you want about their metrics, right? Like, they're a very efficient team on both sides of the ball. They do everything well, right? But, like, what about these losses? Can we talk about these losses for Colorado? UCLA, I'll let them get away with that. Arizona, okay. But Cal, Utah, Washington, man, Washington's not a good team. Colorado's just folded under pressure so many times. You look at Georgetown, they had never held a team under 60 points all season long. Under Patrick Ewing, too, right? The whole time he's been there. And then the Big East tournament, they did it 3 out of the 4 games. They played exceptional defense. They have the size down low to combat Batty. I think that this team is pretty well positioned to beat Colorado. Their 3-point shooting is definitely up to par here. And I think, again, it's a short spread for a reason. It's a popular upset pick for a reason. It's because not only does Georgetown, they ride in, they're a bet-on team here, but also, that defense, man, was just unbelievable in the Big East tournament. They're going to grind it out here against Colorado. And I just think, Colorado has too many bad losses on their resume here for me to really trust them.
All right, Jules, what about you? Give me a team in the East here that could bust this region of the bracket.
Yeah, I would love to find a way to disagree with Kenny, but that means that I need to find another upset that I believe in, and I don't necessarily have that. And it's tough because this region, I don't love it. Michigan is a weaker number 1 seed given the injury. Alabama is a weaker 2 seed at the moment. I think FSU is a weaker 4 seed. They've got some bodies, but they don't seem to be able to ever really put it together. But do I think that they're going to struggle with UNC Greensboro? No, Florida State just has too many athletes to get through that game. So It's Georgetown by default. They're red hot coming out of the Big East. They have the bodies. The Pac-12 maybe a little bit down this year. Kenny pointed out poked all the holes that you can poke in Colorado there. So it's going to be a super popular 12-5 and with good reason. But I just can't find. I'm looking at the bracket. I'm trying to find another lower seed. I can't find it. So it's got to be Georgetown.
No love for the Bonnies in this region?
If you go somewhere else, I guess it has to be there. Okay. I know that your wife is a Bonnie, Emerson.
Oh,
make that very
my God.
Clear. You make that very clear on Twitter.
That's incredible.
Actually, A10 guys.
Yeah.
So we watch a lot of A10 basketball. I'll be rooting for the Bonnies in
good.
The A10 always seems to get smoked in the tournament. Mm-hmm. LSU's offense is so good. You saw that SEC championship game against Alabama. I think that the Bonnies are going to have a really tough time slowing LSU, but I'll be pulling for them.
Great. Yeah, I just wanted everyone to know my wife was a former Division I cheerleader at St. Bonaventure. That's it.
That's huge for you, man.
I got a lot of love for the A10 as well.
Good.
Javonte Smart, man, that guy is a stone cold killer. Him, Trendon Watford, like that. I think that team could beat Michigan. I'm scared. We'll talk about it, but I'm scared about it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jules, how about this? One of the most bet on games across the tournament is the playing game between Michigan State and UCLA for the right to play number 6 BYU. It's not often we see two schools here with this kind of pedigree playing in a playing game. I know Michigan State is a 2.5-point favorite. Who do you like to advance here?
This is such a weird game. Like you said, when do we see UCLA and Michigan State in a play-in game? I'm not going to lie. I have no clue what is going to happen in this game. It completely depends which Michigan State team shows up. And that's been like impossible to figure out all year. Is it the one that can beat Michigan and Illinois? Or is it the one that can get mopped off the floor by like the bottom feeders of the Big Ten? I don't know. Michigan State can win this game by 20. They can lose it. I lean towards UCLA. The money's been coming in on Michigan State. I obviously have no conviction here, but I will say, here, you're looking for an upset here. We don't know the team yet. Whoever wins that game, I like against BYU.
Which way are you leaning here, Kenny?
Totally agree with you, Jules. I mean, that like the play-in team at the 11 seed advancing to like the Sweet 16 is the new 12-5. You just have to pick one every year. And I love that call. I love the winner of this making a run. But I think it just has to be it has to be Michigan State, rather. I hate both of these teams. I think both these teams are incredibly fraudulent. But if I have to pick a team, like UCLA 335th in tempo, and they're top 50 in three-point shooting. So that means that like they really take their time to find the right shot and hit it. But Michigan State's three-point defense is so good. I think that this could work against them. Like I think if they slow down the game and start missing some shots, it could get away from them. And their defense really was not good. Julian mentioned like the Pac-12 had a down year. They had a down year, and UCLA was 9th in defense in the Pac-12. Not good at all. So I have to take Michigan State here, as much as it pains me, because again, I hate both of these teams, both of these schools. But to me, I think this one's pretty clear, cut and dry. And again, it's like I don't want to sound like a square, but I have to take Michigan State.
All right, but Kenny, who's your pick to make the Final Four out of this region?
Well, I honestly don't. I think that if you would have asked me a couple weeks ago, I would have sounded like a square saying Michigan making the Final Four. But I think that it's really cooled off on Michigan. But I love them. I took them as an outright to win the national championship months ago, and it's for good reason, because they have good coaching, and Phil Martelli's on the bench there aside from head coach Juwan Howard. I think it can't go understated how important he's been as well. So good coaching staff. You got a great leader at point in Mike Smith. They say he has a PhD in hoops. And Franz Wagner has been absolutely amazing. Hunter Dickinson, sensational. And Julia mentioned the injury to Isaiah Livers. You know, I think that they could get him back during this tournament. And I think that would actually provide a huge boost. And I mentioned that LSU game. I'm really scared about it. Like, I'm worried about it as someone who picks Michigan to make the Final Four. But if they get past LSU, I think that is the battle that they need early on in this tournament. You know, that's going to be a slugfest, a dogfight. If they get past LSU, I think that that's going to ready them for maybe a physical matchup against Georgetown, or like Julian said, the athletes that Florida State has. And then down the line, maybe it's a Texas or UConn that they meet in the Elite Eight. But I think that they're going to be battle tested here early, and I think it's going to help them down the road. This is just, they do everything well. I love this team too much, and I think they make the Final Four here, and I think it might be Michigan's year.
All right, Jules, your Final Four pick from the East.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, Michigan's been great, but the Livers injury, if that's a foot fracture, that really worries me. I don't know if they are going to get him back. We talked about the Michigan State UCLA team. Could they make a run? Maybe. Kenny talked about his love for UConn. The only thing that I've bet in this region so far, I got UConn -2 when it opened, and it's on the move. I like them. The reason I can't pick any of those teams to make a run is because I believe in Texas too much, and Texas is the team that I have coming out of this bracket. The 3 seed, they have 3 tremendous guards. They have Sims in the front court that can battle if it does wind up being Michigan and their size down the road to get out of that region. So for me, Texas is the team that I think is going to the Final Four here and maybe busting a little bit of chalk.
All right, good stuff, guys. Kenny, hang out. Colin's going to join you next for a Midwest breakdown. We're just getting started here, folks, on the Sweat March to the Tournament. Welcome back to the Sweat March to the Tournament, everybody. We crushed the East region to start the show. Now we're going to give you some Midwest breakdown with DraftKings contributor Kenny Ducey and Collin Sherwin of DK Nation. Kenny, Illinois and Houston here, the top seeds with the Illini as a 22.5-point favorite over Drexel. So 70% of the bets are on the spread on Illinois to cover here. That spread here, do you see it actually happening?
I do. I mean, it's obviously, not going to happen, but I feel like Illinois should score every time down the floor here. I mean, look, this is a team that James Butler down low at center for Houston is going to be a big liability. He's 6'8". This is a banged up front court. And Kofi Cockburn, I mean, baby Shaq, like what more can you want here? He's just going to absolutely feast on this front court. And again, we'll talk about Illinois a lot in this breakdown. I can't see a way that this defense is able to stop Illinois. So I think the public's got it right here on Illinois to cover the spread. I think this is a big blowout, just mainly because of the discrepancy, in the front court.
Collin, do you think the public has it right and Illinois covers?
Yeah, I do. Drexel is on a lifetime heater right now. So in their last 4 games, they went on a 4-game winning streak. 3 of those in the CAA tournament to get to the tournament itself. They shot 12 of 28 from 3 against James Madison, 11 of 18 from 3 against Charleston, 8 of 16 from 3 against Northeastern, and 10 of 17 from 3 against Elon. That's not sustainable. Illinois can close out. They'll run its shooters much faster than anybody else that Drexel's going to see this year. I really like Illinois, not just to win, but to cover. This could be 40.
All right, Collin, 53% of the bets coming in right now are on number 11, Syracuse to upset 16 San Diego State. How much do you like that upset? And if you don't, I mean, where else could we be looking here in this region?
I'm really not as big a fan of the Syracuse defense against a team that shoots the 3 as well as San Diego State does. You're going to be able to get to the nail, drive and kick all day against that 2-3 zone. And San Diego State shoots 37.5% from 3. If they even get close to that mark, they should be a winner here. In terms of upsets in this region, I think this one is less likely than most. If I had to go somewhere, Morehead State can play. And that's a really good team that's a little bit underrated right now. I don't know if they can hang with the physicality and the athleticism of West Virginia, but I think they're going to get a little bit more of a game. They're going to give a little bit more of a game than maybe some people expect. That's going to be a game late in the second half.
Kenny, 53% of the bets coming in right now on Q's to upset San Diego State. You like that?
I love it. I mean, you have to weigh the meme factor here with Syracuse. Like Buddy Boeheim, just the guy cannot miss from 3. Him, Alan Griffin. This is one of those games that I don't think is going to make a whole lot of sense. But I think that Syracuse is just going to just drill threes, all game long. And you're going to be so frustrated. Like, this team isn't good enough to be here. This team isn't good enough to be winning by this much. Why are they doing it? It happens all the time in March. You just get hot 3-point shooting teams. They come into the tournament hot. They stay hot.
Kenny, where else is the money coming in here in the Midwest region?
Well, I think really when you look around the region, it's pretty apparent that the public is going to be all over Illinois, as you mentioned. But I think that Oregon State here is actually, you see them getting a little bit of love, and it's with good reason. The 12-5 upsets with the public are always going to be popular. And we talk about now, is it going to be profitable to bet these 12-5s because it's such a thing now, right? Like, it's been a thing for, last 10 years. is there any value here anymore? But I do think that there's still value here in taking Oregon State, despite the fact that the public likes them. Tennessee, a pretty good matchup. Oregon has a good zone against them. So, I think that we're seeing a little bit of the money on the 12-5s this year, and Oregon is another one that should be able to come through.
All right, Collin, what about you? What are you seeing, and why do you think the public's leaning that way?
I think it's a 12-5 game, and the one that everybody's all over we'll get to eventually, which is Villanova-Winthrop. But I do think Oregon State played really well in the conference tournament, and sometimes it's just a hot team, especially this year where we don't have as big a sample on some of these teams. Maybe who's just playing the best basketball right now as you can continue to go through. I still think that this quadrant of the bracket plays mostly to type. I think you'll see not too many upsets till we get to the end. But there are certainly possibilities. This is as wide open a field as we've ever seen. And that's going to make for some double-digit seeds that are going to get through. And I think the public is all over those already.
All right, well, Collin, what about the lowest seed you'd bet on to make a run to the Elite Eight from this region?
I wouldn't go lower than Oklahoma State. If Cade Cunningham gets hot, they can beat anybody. They certainly have that type of potential. Tennessee's just too up and down. Yves Pons, if he plays well, they play well. If they don't, they're a little too inconsistent this year. They've been a bit up and down. And I don't see anybody else down on the board. But I wouldn't be stunned to see any of the Final Four or the top 4 seeds to get through. The team everybody's sleeping on right now is Houston. Houston's playing a really good basketball at this point. They just blown out 2 teams to get here in the American Conference Championship. They seem to be pulling it together at the right time. They had a COVID pause way earlier in the season. I think they've started to make that full recovery that some teams haven't made yet. So keep an eye on the Cougs. Illinois is the best team. They got the best duo in the game. They are the favorite. They should be the favorite, but I wouldn't sleep on Houston either.
Yeah, it feels like Houston's draw is exceptional here in this region. Kenny, what about you? Lowest seed you'd bet on to make a run in the Elite Eight?
I'm going back to Oregon State here to make a run to the Elite Eight, because when you look at the way that this bracket breaks down, I think that everyone's in love with Cade Cunningham, and for good reason, right? The guy's going to be number 1 pick in the draft. He's sensational. He's probably the best player in this tournament. But, this zone for Oregon State is going to make Oklahoma State beat them from outside. And I think that, I think that Liberty has a very similar strategy, right? Liberty, good defensive team. We love them for their unders all season long, and they're going to make Oklahoma shoot and beat them from outside as well. So back-to-back games, I think that could be difficult matchups for Oklahoma State. I think that one of them maybe knocks them out, and then you see Oregon State with a meeting with Illinois. Now, I don't think that this is one that Oregon State maybe wins, but anything can happen in March. And I think Oregon State's a pretty likely team to get to the Sweet 16 as a low seed, whereas on the other side, I said that I do like Syracuse to upset San Diego State, and I'm not sure how far their run goes. But I will say, I think that Houston's down, we'll talk about it, but I think Houston's due for a little bit of a downslide rather. And it could open up this bracket for sure. But if I have to pick one team, it's not going to be the bottom half of this bracket. It's going to be the top half. So I'm going to go with Oregon State as the most likely low seed to make the Elite Eight.
All right. So then hook me up with your pick to make the Final Four out of the Midwest.
Yeah, look, as much as I think there's a lot of value in Oregon State, I think that Illinois has to be my pick to make the Final Four. And I don't have all 1 seeds here. I did say Michigan State in the East and Illinois in the Midwest. But look, they just have some killers, man, and that is what you need in March. Cockburn down low. DeMonte Williams shooting it at almost 57% from 3. Guy's been outstanding for them at the guard position. Desunmu. So I think that they just have a lot of different ways they can beat you. 7-3 against the top 25 this year. These guys are battle tested, and you look at Houston. If they meet Houston in the Elite Eight, Houston's only beat just one top 25 team. They've had just 1 game against the top 25. So I think that there might be a letdown coming for the Cougars here. I'm not sold that they blow out Cleveland State. I think that could be a close game. Rutgers is going to be a real big test for them, and then West Virginia, you never know. So I think that Houston might not even make it to the Elite Eight here. And that is why I love Illinois, because I do think that, despite what we said about the value on maybe Oregon State, they are the most complete team in this tournament to me. They are legit. And I think that they have as good a chance as anybody to win this whole thing. So I like them to make the Final Four in this region.
Collin, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, I agree on Illinois. I think Illinois is the best team in this quadrant for sure. I really like Houston, though, in the Elite Eight. in the second half against Illinois, because Illinois in second halves this year is terrible. They are one of the teams you definitely want to bet on before the game, and at second half take the other side, because they have just been not great in second halves. But I really like Illinois. Iowa's the best closer in the game. They can, if it comes down to isolation situations, which it so often does in the NCAA tournament, close games, he's the guy who can get to the rim and shoot it probably better than any other player in the country, maybe outside of Cade Cunningham. So I really like Illinois to get through. I do think Houston does get through here. I think they're just a little underrated right now and just coming into their own and playing their best basketball at this point. So I think it's those two. But yeah, Illinois against the field, give me Illinois.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We're going to take our talents to the South region when the show comes back. You are watching The Sweat march to the tournament here on the Dream Stream. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Good to have you here. We're going to get some South region breakdown now from DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow and Collin Sherwin of DK Nation. Jules, Baylor has been one of the favorites all season here and is your number one seed, with Ohio State coming in as the 2. So Baylor, a 26.5-point favorite over Hartford in the first round, and still seeing 69% of the bets coming in on the Baylor point spread. But is that spread too big for you to bet on Baylor?
It's really not. Hartford is excited to be here, and they should be, and they'll go out there and have some fun, but it would be heroic for them to cover against this Baylor team. Now, anything can happen. Like, you don't want to be sitting there with a 30-point game late and, get a couple of buckets for Hartford and you miss this one. But if you're making me play it, I'm playing Baylor. I just think this one will get ugly out of the gates. So there might be a little bit more value in taking something like Baylor minus 15 first half, even though, mathematically you're not getting quite the same value there, or a first half team total for Baylor, which has been something that has cashed plenty this season. We went over those numbers on the Unreasonable Odds podcast yesterday. Baylor's going to throttle Hartford. It's just a question of picking which bet you feel is the strongest way to back Baylor. And one of those things might just be betting them to reach the Elite Eight or the Final Four. Like, if you look at those futures odds, Baylor was minus 157. I think it moved to minus 177 to make the Elite Eight. That's only winning 3 games. We know they're going to beat Hartford. I'm high on UNC, but they're going to beat UNC, who I think will be there, or Wisconsin. And then the 4-5 is weak in this match, like a Purdue-Villanova maybe game to get there. Getting Baylor to win those 3 games at less than minus 200, even though you got to lay some serious juice, is great value in my mind.
All right, Collin, how do you bet this one? Looks like the Bears went 13-1 in a tough Big 12 conference, so kind of hard to not see them playing deep into March.
Yeah, what Baylor does better than anybody is that they have a trio of guards that is just some of the best in the country. ACFC, Jared Butler, these guys are really, really studs. The one thing that Hartford does, though, is they take away the 3. So they're the 9th best team in the country at defending the 3-point shot. That would take away a lot of Baylor's offense. But then again, when you're Hartford, you're playing in the NEC, you're not really playing teams that can move the ball with the kind of athleticism, and Baylor is super athletic as well. I could go either way on this one against the spread with Baylor, but I really like Baylor to make a run in this tournament. They can do it on both ends. Defensively, they rebound as well as anybody. So this one's a tough one for me. I think that number's probably right about perfect, so I might stay away from this game. But on the whole, I'm big on Baylor making a run here in the tournament.
Yeah, Bears leading Division I in 3-point shooting percentage this season. Collin, Purdue, North Texas here, 4-13 matchup with the higher seeded Boilermakers sitting as a 7.5-point favorite. So 87% of the bets coming in on this game have gone in for Purdue to cover. So that means no one is giving North Texas a chance here. Do you agree with the public?
Yeah, the public's got this one right. North Texas got to overtime in the Conference USA Championship game. Didn't play real well, though. Western Kentucky could have just as easily been in this tournament. They really struggle to score. They're going to have a real tough time with a Power 5 team. They didn't play a lot of them during the year. So I think the public just has this one right. There's just not a lot of reason to see anything in North Texas which makes you go, oh, that's a team that could really make a deep run here or upset a team or two. They just don't have it. They don't play with a lot of pace. They limit possessions, which limits their opportunities. I just don't see it.
Is this right, Jules? North Texas stands no chance.
Fade the public, you squares. Give me the points. I don't see North Texas making a run here, and Collin told us why. Purdue's probably going to win this game, but I don't think they necessarily win it by 8 or more. Look, it's going to be an ugly game. One of the things that Collin did say, though, North Texas limits possessions. The fewer possessions we get in this game, the better chance we have for the underdog to at least keep it around a few possessions and be there. It might not even be a game that in the end, you think has a threat that North Texas was ever really threatening in, but it winds up 9 in the end, and North Texas gets a layup at the end to give you the 7. I just feel it's going to be in that neighborhood. And one of the things I like, Purdue has some size. We saw Purdue use that size in conference tournament play. North Texas, Western Kentucky's really good. I was hoping Western Kentucky would actually be here to represent, but North Texas had to get by Bassey, who's one of the better big guys in the country, and was able to do it. So maybe they have some experience defending talented bigs with size, even though they're not from a power conference. I just think I'm going against all the money here. I think we can somehow keep this one within a few possessions.
Jules, another trend we've seen is number 12 Winthrop getting 56% of the money line bets to upset the 5 seed Villanova, and is also one of the most bet on games in the tournament so far. A popular 12-5 upset pick here, which is a real thing in the tournament. Is this the one you'd hang your hat on?
So the Georgetown 12 seed, I'm on board with. The Oregon State 12 seed, I was off of that segment. I am totally on board with. The first thing I bet when this tournament opened up was Oregon State plus 8.5 against Tennessee. That line's way off and it's coming down. But when it comes to this one, I get it. It's popular to go against the injuries, and Gillespie being out for Villanova is a huge deal. You go in and quickly look. Winthrop has 1 loss on the season. Let's go 12-5 upset. I'm not going that way. I think Villanova is well enough coached. I think Villanova has enough players left to win this game. And anytime you can, be contrarian by giving me Villanova in the first round when they were one of the top 3 or 4 teams in terms of title odds to begin the season, I will gladly take that. So I guess I'm maybe fading the public a little bit again and saying Villanova advances here.
Collin, what do you think? You fading the public as well?
Oh, no, I'm so square here. Put me in a box. I'll fit perfectly. Look, when this bracket came out, I literally jumped out of my seat when I saw Villanova against Winthrop. Winthrop was one of my teams that I thought could really make a run here. They run, they shoot. This is going to be a game that's all about tempo. Winthrop, I think, is 11th in the nation in tempo, and Villanova is 350 like they are every year. And the only reason Villanova is that low is because Virginia's got to be lower. So it's just going to be who controls the ball, who controls the tempo, who can force turnovers. You can force Villanova into turnovers when Gillespie's not on the floor. I think they get it done here. I think I like the Winthrop straight up, not even with the points. I'll take money line. This is so, and I understand how square this bet is. I am going in eyes open, walking into the trap here. But this is one I just really like. I'm with you on Georgetown as well. But of the 12-5 games, this is the one that jumps out at me the most. I grew up a Villanova fan. I grew up 6 miles from Villanova. My whole family went to Villanova. I'm fading my whole family. That's how much I like this game.
Well, shout out to Rolly Massimino while we're at it, dude. Who's your pick to make the Final Four out of this region, Collin?
This one is tough, but it's probably Baylor. I just don't see anybody who's got the ability to get through and do it on both ends. And look, if guard play wins NCAA tournaments, which is what everyone says, they have the best guard play in the country. I chalk, all these potential upsets out here, and it's chalk. If I had to take a team somewhere else off the board, Florida's not playing terrible basketball when they want to. They could come out of nowhere and definitely possibly get to an Elite Eight. They'd have to get through Arkansas, which would be a tough matchup for them. But if they could find a way to do that, if somewhere down the board, I'd like a little bit of value in Florida. But this is Baylor's bracket.
What do you think, Jules? Final Four team out of this region?
Yeah, the only thing I disagree with Collin on is that it's tough. because it's not tough. It's Baylor, and it's easy. I would love to find a team that could beat them. I have no problem being contrarian, but I don't see the team that it is in this bracket. Like they didn't necessarily get thrown, like we have Illinois gets thrown a tough 4 seed in Oklahoma State, and I love Illinois, but that's a tough 4 seed. This 4-5 game is the dinged up Villanova against Purdue, and Colin doesn't even think Villanova will be there after round 1. So like, I just don't see where the teams are coming from that are going to knock off Baylor. Ohio State's a little dinged up on the bottom side of the bracket. They pushed as far as they could push in the Big Ten. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have a level that I don't think they necessarily have. Arkansas is good, but like I think a game against Texas Tech in the second round, I could see them going out there. And I don't think Texas Tech has necessarily what it takes to beat Baylor, although they at least, know them some and have some familiarity there. I'm working through the bracket, trying to find who beats Baylor. I can't do it.
Gentlemen, we are going to take a break. We're going to poke over to the West region where the number 1 overall seed Gonzaga is calling home. So hang out with us. Lots more to go in the show. Hello again, everybody. To the West region we go, where the top-seeded Gonzaga calls home. So number 2 seed here is going to be Iowa. Jules and Colin, you guys are back to help us out a little bit here. Iowa favored by 14.5 over Grand Canyon. You like that spread in the first round of this region, or there are better options in your eyes, Jules?
I'll say this. I mean, Iowa is the least favored 2 seed in the tournament. So smallest number here. Maybe that makes it more intriguing to go with them. But Grand Canyon was on a little bit of a run coming in. Some strong showings by the Antelopes. I don't know if I'm not going to wind up betting this game, but I guess you can talk me into maybe getting some value on the cheapest 2 seed, especially if they have an offense like they've had. They put up a lot of points this season, and that's going to be hard for any 15 caliber seed to keep up with.
Colin, what do you think?
Yeah, I like Iowa here. Chalk, but Iowa turns the ball over less than any other team in the country, and they're the second best offense behind the other team in this bracket, Gonzaga. Grand Canyon, God bless them, they play hard. I watched a little bit of that WAC tournament. They definitely have a good effort. But they just don't have, first of all, they played a 3:14 pace, so I don't know how they're going to possibly get over the hump, even if they needed to outscore a team like Iowa. Congratulations to Grand Canyon. I think they're the first for-profit university to ever make the NCAA tournament, but it's not profitable for bettors. Take Iowa.
Guys, how about a favorite here? Upset in this region, Colin.
Oh boy. Let me pull that. It's all good. No, it's all good. I get it. While you're doing that, yeah, go ahead, Jules.
Look, this is the Zags and Iowa, if they can make it deep, got a little bit of a gift in this region because it is the COVID region. Both Kansas and Virginia dropped out of their conference tournaments, and they're in the same bracket, which is a little bit surprising. Virginia is going to be without the player that tested positive for COVID is not going to play in these first 2 games. If they're even fortunate enough to win a game, the player is rumored to be a notable player. There may be more players that are unable to play. We don't know any specifics, but we know it's not good. Ohio is good. Ohio is an impressive team at times. I'm taking Ohio as a 13 this year to advance.
You ready,
Yeah.
Colin? You want to deliver the goods?
Yeah, I agree. This Iowa team, the last time they made the tournament, they ended up in the Sweet 16 and in overtime with North Carolina in 2012. They can play. Virginia, especially against the spread, like Virginia just they coin flip you at the end so many times just because of how they play. So that just brings in more, and especially with the points here with Ohio, I really like it. But it's a straight up upset. Who knows what you're going to get out of Virginia? They could be the first team to ever go out in the first round, win the national championship, and then go out in the first round again. So that's pretty Virginia for you.
All right, guys, we got a lot more to talk about here. in this West region. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're bringing in 3-time NBA champion and former Iowa Hawkeye hoops great BJ Armstrong. So stay with us. A real quick break here. All right, we're back at it, ladies and gentlemen. Back to the West region. So Jules and Collin are here, and then kind of a big deal, not going to lie, 3-time NBA champion and former Iowa Hawkeye hoops great BJ Armstrong now on the horn with us. Okay, round of applause, everybody. Round of applause. Thanks for being here, BJ. What's up, man? How are you?
Oh, man, it's great. It's that time of the year. It's so amazing to say, we have the tournament back. March Madness is back. So I'm excited to be here, in particular with my Iowa Hawkeyes. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you just mentioned, you're an Iowa guy, and your team now the number 2 seed in the West, although they are in the same bracket as overall top seed Gonzaga. How deep of a run can the Hawkeyes make? Come on.
Are you asking me to say this with my heart or my head here?
Give me both.
Well, my heart is saying we are going to the Final Four this year. That's what my heart says, right? That's what my heart says. But you know what? This Gonzaga team looks terrific. They playing amazing basketball. They're undefeated. They're well coached. Jalen Suggs, their point guard. They have all of the ingredients to really, I think can run the table. So I think it's going to be tough. But you know what? I'm rooting for my Hawkeyes. But that Gonzaga team, they look like a terrific team, and they're going to be a very tough out.
All right, Jules, what do you think about BJ's take?
I mean, the best thing that could have possibly happened to Gonzaga was probably that 12-point comeback that they needed against BYU, because they haven't been tested in so long, and they're going to be tested in this tournament. It wasn't quite as good as being, tested by the type of teams that Illinois was tested by over the last couple of weeks, but they needed something like that to kind of sharpen up for this bracket. Iowa's great. Their offense is legit. They're going to roll in the first round. But if they do wind up with Gonzaga, we saw how that one went earlier in the season. That was like, you bet the over on that one, and you know that you're going to win like 10 minutes into the game. The pace was ridiculous with both of those offenses. My only cause for concern here, with a little bit of slip up, we've kind of been talking down on the Pac-12 for some of this show. But if there's a team out of the Pac-12 that I like, it is Oregon. Dana Altman always has this team ready in March. You remember the tournament 2 years ago. They weren't going to get in. They ran the table in the Pac-12 and then made that Sweet 16 run, I think it was, and lost to Virginia. I would watch out in the second round for Oregon if I'm Iowa in this spot. Okay,
Collin, what concerns do you have with Iowa? Are you as confident as BJ is in his alma mater?
Yeah, I think the Gonzaga-Iowa Elite Eight game could be an all-timer. This could be one of the best games we've seen in the tournament. This is up there with like Duke, Kentucky, 91-92. Like, it could be that kind of basketball. However, you just have to give the edge to the Zags. They're so completely dominant on both sides. What they do better than I think most people give them credit for is they can just lock in defensively whenever they choose. First half of that BYU game in the conference final, they were just messing around, like the cat playing with the toy, and all of a sudden the cat just prances after it. Held BYU to, I think, 0.67 points per possession in the second half. They can just turn it on wherever they want to. It'll be tougher against a team like Iowa, who can really shoot and has so many weapons on all sides of the ball. Garza is incredible. It is such a shame that Garza's not getting more of a mention as part of the NBA draft, because he's such a talent. He's such a perfect fit for the college game, though. And he just does everything they do flows through him, whether it's in the post, he back up and shoot the three as well. So he's just such a weapon out there. But I got to take the Zags.
BJ, you look at this region as a whole here. What's the lowest seed you'd bet on to make a run to the Elite Eight?
That Oregon team really has me concerned, especially for my Hawkeyes. I mean, they are a team that, I think a little underrated. But, I think, their coaching staff, their experience and what they have, I think this Oregon team is really primed to make a run, because, it's like a setup game. You have the number 2 seed, everything is going well. But trust me, guys, when I tell you this, Oregon right now, I could easily see them winning 2 or 3 games and advancing to that Final 8.
Jules, how nervous does Oregon make you?
Well, I'm not a Hawkeyes fan, so they don't make me nervous at all. They're a team that I have in my bracket going past them. So the Ducks were good to me a couple of years ago in March, so I'm going to be good to them in return. In my bracket, I have them over Iowa in that game, but that's for fun. That's for
Don't say that. We need the positive thoughts here. We're giving positive thoughts here.
Everybody's going to have Iowa there. So that's just me trying to be a little bit different in like a bracket. Like when it comes to that game, I don't know if I'm going to bet like Oregon money line to win the game. But I think it's a way that you can be a little different in terms of just values to reach the Elite Eight. Again, like who am I most confident is going to be there? It's Gonzaga. Like Gonzaga getting to the Elite Eight is a no-brainer, but the odds are also not something you would bet on. So I think the only team, with a good amount of value there that's heavily favored is Baylor at that minus 177 number. I really am surprised that this is not like minus 300. Like Baylor to get through Hartford, North Carolina, and like maybe Villanova or Purdue, they're going to get that far, and then the real test will start. In terms of like deeper values, I think a team like West Virginia plus 350, Texas plus 330 to get like more than 3 times your money on those teams, given the route that they have. That's where I'm looking for the most value in terms of Elite Eight squads.
Yeah, BJ, I know you want positivity. Jules is just not your guy when it comes to that.
Yeah, you're talking.
He's a miserable human being, BJ. I just want you to know that.
That's me.
Collin, lowest seed you bet on to make a run in the Elite Eight out of this region.
Bracket, in this region? Yeah, Iowa, number 2. I think this is just very, very chalk. But I agree with Julian that if you're going to make a contrarian play, if you're in the office pool and you want to beat Sally in accounting, a good spot to do it would be to take Oregon, because I think they've got a real shot against Iowa. Oregon's a very, very good team. And we always talk about this, but Dana Altman, his teams are so well coached. They play really well in late game situations as well. So as a contrarian, yeah, I really like Oregon on your bracket, but on the money line, if I got to pick who I think is going through, I'm taking number 1 and number 2 here. And I think it's going to be an all-timer game, and I'm really looking forward to it.
All right,
BJ.
Emerson.
What's up? Go ahead.
I messed up. I thought we were going overall look. If we're still in the bracket, it's Oregon, and I don't feel great about it, and it's a chalky bracket.
Okay. No, it's all good, dude. It's all good. BJ, your pick to make the Final Four out of this region, and why is it Iowa?
Well, again, I have to say this. I think out of this region, you got to go Gonzaga. I mean, Gonzaga is you look at them, the way they played all year, the way their team is constructed, I think they just have all of the ingredients to win the entire tournament. So, as much as I love my Hawkeyes, as much as I want Iowa, you know what? I got to pick Gonzaga when it's all said and done. They just look like the superior team. And, I just don't see anyone beating them, being able to match how they play with speed and quickness. They can defend, they can slow the game down, and they have terrific guard play. And to me, that is the X factor when you're talking about going through this tournament.
Jules, now let's look at the tournament as a whole and focus in on the Final Four here. I know the DraftKings Sportsbook has bets on teams to make the Elite Eight. Pretty simple. You believe they will or not. So who is the team you are most confident in when it comes to making it to the regional finals?
Again, I won't spend too much time on it because it's Baylor at the number. I thought that Baylor was going to be at least like minus 300 to reach that stage, and they're not. So I think that path is way too easy for the price that we're looking at. Like the team that I'm most confident in, I think the team everybody's most confident in is Gonzaga, but they're so heavily favored that there's almost no value in them in the betting market right now.
What about for you, BJ? Let's go to the Final Four, though. There are odds for every team with Gonzaga and Baylor as the 2 favorites to get to the Final Four. But for the public, the most money here is coming in for Illinois to make it. So what are your favorite plays to make the national semifinals?
Well, it's going to be some type of – I think betting for the upset is the one in being a contrarian here. So I would not be surprised if Illinois is there. And the reason I say that is because Illinois has played top talent all year. They've played in a very competitive Big Ten, in the Big Ten conference. I think this team Illinois is a team that I'm saying they could get there along with Gonzaga. So I see, you can't say anything about Gonzaga, but I could see the Illinois, and I'm going to, as I'm thinking through it, I'm going to go with Illinois to get to the Final Four this year.
Okay, cool. Beach, give me your pick to win this whole thing.
Well,
go ahead.
I feel like I'm on repeat here. I mean, I think the Zags.
Okay.
I think the Zags are going to go through it. I really do. I think there's going to be a great story one way or another. One, either they're going to go undefeated, or it's going to be the biggest upset, and we can't believe who they're going to lose to in this tournament. So either way, I think we're going to have a great story by the end of this tournament.
Okay, Jules, your pick to win the entire NCAA tournament.
Yeah, so I think that the Zags have a great path to get to the final. I don't know how you can't pick them to be there, and I'm picking them to win it all because I think they are that good, and I think that I'm just so confident that they're going to be there. You don't know who's going to be there from the other side of the bracket, so it's tough to say. What I will say is, if we get that Illinois-Baylor game, Baylor's going to be a slight favorite. I have no idea who's going to win the game. Whoever wins that game is going to have a very good test under their belt. I could see an undefeated Zags team losing the national championship game to the winner of that game, and that would be a heck of a storyline. But just in terms of picking it outright, you got to go Zags.
All right, Collin, really quickly, your pick, please, to win the NCAA tournament.
3 for 3. It's Gonzaga. I've been on Gonzaga since that game against Kansas in an empty gym in Fort Myers at the beginning of the season that nobody saw. They are ridiculous. I grabbed them a few weeks ago at plus 350 to win the national championship. I still love it. They're a Death Star. I mean, they can just beat anybody they want, however they want. They can play however you want to play and then do it better than you. Zags all the way.
All right, Jules, Collin, appreciate you. BJ Armstrong, 3-time NBA champion, former Iowa Hawkeye. Much love to you, my friend, and enjoy March Madness. Thanks for hanging out with DraftKings, dude.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone, that's it. Thanks for spending some time with us here on your Tuesday morning. Big tournament tipping off on Thursday.